Well, hey, I'm Rebekah Folks, happy homemaker, mom to 4 busy kids, and online entrepreneur. I've spent over a decade in this space working with high-achieving, high-performing women who carry the weight of juggling all the things. After many ups and downs of creating balance between home life, work life, and a million kid activities too, I learned how to slow down to actually accomplish more of the important things. I believe in all the to-doing, there are deep spaces in women's hearts that are sacred to us. Conviction in our identity, hospitality around our tables, and that quiet strength that only comes when we lay our head down at night, confident we're doing a good job where it matters most. Consider this a melting pot of wisdom learned over the years. From homemaking and wellness to influencing and marketing, we're diving into the topics that have created more peace, more joy, and in the end, more margin in my business and my life. Welcome to Wide Open Spaces. I'm so glad you have joined us again today. I'm thrilled to kind of do one more dive into the topic of hospitality, and it's going to have a little bit of a twist where one of my dearest just sister friends who really embodies the gift of hospitality, and I tell her all the time, it's not because of what she does, it's really just who she is. And while there are a myriad of examples of her everyday hospitality, I wanted her to share just her experience and her story in foster care and what that has meant. And so many of the scriptures and the stories in scripture are pointing to caring for the widows, caring for orphans, caring for strangers. And I can't think of a better way to do that than through foster care. And so I hope, even if you're thinking, this is nowhere on my radar, or this is not something that I want to be called to or am interested in, I hope you'll listen to the story and listen to Morgan and see, is there a way, even if it's referring a friend or just kind of being aware of a need, is somehow how God can grip your heart. And I think it's such an important conversation. And I'm so glad that my friend Morgan Adams is here for that. Well, welcome. I am so excited about today's guest and just the topic of hospitality. And as soon as I knew we were going to be talking about this, I knew that I wanted to talk to Morgan Adams about it because she is the queen of hospitality. I was telling her this morning, it's not even what she does, it's just who she is. She just embodies hospitality. And so, Morgan, thank you for coming on for the conversation. Glad you're here.
I'm so flattered. Yeah, I'm very flattered by that. I think even when you asked me, I was like, I don't do anything more than all of your other amazing friends, but okay.
Not true.
To which you said hush, but.
That's right. Not true. And I tell you what, let's just start at the top. Because I think what happens is we start to think all these things that we do are just normal and that everyone else does them. And even the last couple weeks, some of my closest friends are like, Rebekah, I never had an experience like that, like going to someone's house and then or their mom, putting out food for them or making a celebration, making them feel kind of loved on in that way. And so many things about hospitality, it feels like, are more caught than taught. Mm-hmm. And so I know you were close to your grandmother and your mom. And what did hospitality look like for you growing up?
I kind of thought about that a little bit, and the answer came to me pretty easy because the first way that I thought about hospitality was really simple. I think we're so used to the world of Pinterest and everything feels so extra and big and crafty and, everything that you could ever want is at your fingertips, and honestly has the tendency to make us moms and desiring hostesses feel pretty inept, But when I think about what my mother did or my grandmother, they didn't think about it either. It was just really simple. And I'll probably just start off aging myself just a little bit, but one of the ways I felt really cared for and loved in my home growing up was, prior to any holiday, Valentine's, whatever, I remember it would be, we'd come home from school that day, and my mom worked full time, but we would come home, and it was not the world of Pinterest then, but it was always these cut out cardboard little decorations, and they would be like on the front window or on our bedroom door, like happy St. Patrick's Day or whatever. And
I can picture it.
Okay. they were probably.
I know the ones. Yes.
Okay. You know the ones
like Cupids stuck to the window kind of thing.
Yes. In the accordion shaped thing that.
I'm with you. I'm tracking.
Okay. I loved those. And like, I felt like when I came home and it could officially be that holiday because mom had those out, and there would just be a few ones. The decorations were not extravagant or just like one little plate of cookies or like the cut and bake thing. My mom was a wonderful baker, but it would just be anything little simple that just marked a holiday or an occasion or something. And I remember thinking that was so special. And then now we have this tendency to just be so extra and big and over the top. And it usually equates to spending a lot of money, but it doesn't equate to value. And I think the value there is that, like, looking back, I didn't think about it at the time, but looking back, it's like my mom worked all day long and she still came home and made a point to just put out a few little thoughtful things that said, I care about you and I want our home to feel special and fun. But the other main way, and this really has carried over my entire life without even knowing that it did, was how my parents treated their neighbors. And to this day, my mom lives in the same home that I grew up in, I think like 40 years. She's lived next to her neighbors in just this little subdivision. She's lived next to her neighbors longer than I've even been alive. And, when they've passed away recently, it's been like missing a part of her family. Like, she has lived next to those people longer than closer relationship, probably than she even knows her children. We've all moved away and have our own families, but all those neighbors stayed there. And as those neighbors aged or things changed in their season of life, people came across the street and helped them, whatever that looked like. Usually food, but just everything, a helping hand, watering their plants, taking their dogs out without ever a thought. You didn't coordinate like, could we pay so-and-so to do this? It was just like, hey, could you help me? And very neighborly. And my dad and my grandparents lived more in a rural setting out in the country, and a little bit different, but really just the same, because in the country, you may have more space between you and another house. But it always amazed me how much, farmer so-and-so knew about farmer so-and-so and all their business and their land, and cared for them and helped them in any capacity. And if you needed anything, you would just come get it. And we have really embrace that with our neighbors. It's really important to me that I have a good relationship with my neighbors. And we do. One of the things I always say is I love the street that I live on. You've probably heard me say it, because I love my neighbors. They could come get anything out of our house. Their kids could come into the house and do whatever. And I mean, so I think that just being neighborly really was the first way that my parents showed me how to be hospitable. And I know society.
So if you kind of defined it today, do you kind of equate being neighborly with hospitality?
Absolutely. I mean, the funny story I think of, in fact, several kids just left my house, and I basically was like, you have to be gone for 30 minutes. Like, just leave and then you can come back. You can ask him. But I was thinking about this one little boy that comes over a lot, and he is a hoot, trust me. But you know this, Rebecca, because obviously you've been in my house a lot of times. But the front of our house has the big house numbers real big on the front. And he comes in and out of our house so much, but he stopped one day. And he's got this really funny personality. He stopped, he put his hands down on his hips, and he said, Morgan, why do you put your house code right on the front of your house? And I said, that is not our house code. He thought we were just so open and hospitable that we shared our alarm code into our house with everyone. And I got so tickled over that. I said, Told it his name. And I said, that is not our alarm code. That's our house number.
That's our house number.
Yeah.
That's where they send us the bills so we can keep all the lights on for all you people coming over here.
I just thought, he really thought I put my alarm code out there for everyone. But that actually made me happy because I thought, well, bless his heart. He just thinks I'm literally that trusting. But yeah. And I think a lot of being neighborly and friendly and open also stem from just our origin of faith and attending church very regularly and going to, if you're raised in especially in the South, but if you're raised in a strong faith organization, your interpretation of hospitality is food.
I was about to finish the sentence with you. Food. Food.
It's like, you better cue up the casserole because somebody has had a baby, had a death, had a job change, had a sad day. You better. Yeah, love language is our casserole, so you better.
But you can't get around it, whether you're dropping off, store-bought chicken salad and deli rolls or cookies or some, whatever that looks like. When you bring someone food, it means, hey, I'm here to nourish you, to love on you. And something about that is so big. It's so big. And so it's just kind of part of, I love that what you're talking about is just everyday hospitality. It's just, hey, my neighbor's been going through a hard time. I see their trash cans been out there for 3 days in a row. I'm going to wheel that back up for them, or I'm going to recognize there's a need and I can help with that. And I think that's precious. And I do love that it seems like every time I come to your house, all the neighbor kids are either in your little cul-de-sac next to you, being right there close, or they're running in and out of your house or in the backyard. And I think that's because you are open and you are saying, hey, I want you here. You're welcome here. And I think that's precious.
Yeah. I do have a saying in our house that is, if you can see it, you can have it. Meaning food wise. And it doesn't mean I don't want to serve you, because I could get on that topic for a long time. But I just want you to feel so comfortable that, like, if you see the food in the cabinet, just have at it. Now, if you're a little kid, I'm probably also going to say, now, buddy, that's 14 packages of fruit snacks. So you may want to slow down on that, because I know your mom. But
you've reached the red 40 die limit for the day.
And I also like the saying, if you can see it, you can have it, because us moms also know there are a few things that we hide. So Absolutely. I did not say dig through and find the things I've hidden.
That's
I said, if you can see it, you can have it or use it.
And those Dove chocolates that are hidden behind those special glasses in the top cabinet to the left, those are not for you. Those are not for you.
Anything with caramel, that's going to be for me. So move along.
I love that. And I think it's so precious how you are with just people in general. And I see that whether we have friends at the lake and we're out there camping, or whether you're hosting people in your home. But another area where I really just wanted you to share today was in the area of foster care. And I'm like literally telling myself, Rebekah, you're not going to get tuned up, especially not in the first 30 seconds of asking it. But there was just this big shift where you saw a need. And when I think about hospitality and I look in the scriptures, I'm thinking I believe in the beauty and the impact of hospitality in our own walls, like just with our own people. And I think that's important. And I think that it's important for our people to know this is a safe place where you can also bring in your friends and you want to be, and you want your people here. And I believe in that. But I also recognize that some of it is also in strangers. And when they were talking about hospitality and just the days of old, it was a lot of time people that were traveling and that were like strangers. And I'm thinking about myself, and like the doorbell rings and I'm like, hit the deck, checking the cameras. Who would dare ring my doorbell? Who would do it? And so I need to work in that area. But your family kind of saw a need, and I think it started in your church, and you recognized that foster care was a way that you could acknowledge and explore and honor hospitality. And I just share how that happened in your own life, kind of the way that you were introduced to that and why you said, okay, we're gonna do this thing. I'd love you to tell that story.
Well, whenever someone asks me about foster care, my brain goes about 50 different directions, and I usually have to go, focus, Morgan, focus, because I can get all over the place with it. But we did feel it to be a calling on our heart. And, I just admittedly, in all my years of my faith journey and, seeking the Lord, I will admittedly say one of my weak points is still not being as wise or disciplined, especially disciplined would probably be more the word, in like studying the scripture and the discipline of like getting up every morning and like, doing that. That's probably not my strength. It's not that I don't do it, but it is definitely not my strongest muscle. But what I have felt like in the way that I do feel strong and the closest to the Lord is when I'm serving others. And I stand by the saying, the thought that we are most like Jesus when we serve others. And serving others can look like so many different things. And so often I think we just try to make it so much. And it's so complicated and so many Pinterest boards and so extra to the point where it just starts being like, I'm on display and I would like to invite you to my home so you then can look at what I have and what I do and how everything in my home appears to be perfect. And that actually, it's not hospitality. Hospitality is making someone feel safe and comfortable and loved. And as much as I love all the little extra details of things and making someone feel loved in the details, it really is mostly about making someone feel so safe and comfortable that they just want to stay. And so that really transferred over into our ability to find a place that we could serve in the foster care realm and provide safety and structure and unconditional love. And that thought, like, you belong. I mean, and that could be for a week, a month, 2 years, whatever that looks like, which that's a whole nother topic, But I wanted to model that for my children, because I think so often we can just say like, oh, share your toys, share your stuff, you should do this. And then are they seeing that in their home, like lived out? And I think one of the biggest misconceptions about hospitality is that it's this thought like, oh, I have so much more than I need, so you have some of this too. I have extra clothes, so you have this, and I have extra food, so you have this. And although that is great, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I am saying that the truest heart, sacrifice, service of hospitality, whether that is foster care or anything, sharing with a friend, is what is mine is yours. And it does, and that makes no difference whether you have little or a lot. And so when we thought about foster care, I think as parents, and it's easy to go, oh, do we have enough to take on like another child? And all those are fair questions, but it really was just about opening our hearts up to find space to serve someone else that had a need. And so a lot of that felt natural because we have welcomed neighbors and friends and things in your home. And so then you just, that felt maybe foreign a little, but not so hard. I mean, it's less scary than you think. It's like, I really sometimes even don't like the word foster care, because to me, they're just like, it's a special guest, like, and you should treat them like that, because oftentimes you don't know how long they'll stay. And if someone was coming through, an out of town family member or something, you would greet them with anticipation and excitement at the door. And you would say, here's where you sleep, and here's your this, and here's the food, and here are these, and please let me know if you need anything, because this is what we're here for. And that really has been the same approach that we've had to foster care. And however long they're there, God's given us the ability to just to mark all their milestones and be the keeper of their memories. And that's hospitality too, to me.
That's really precious and really beautiful. And I'm thinking of a million stories at one time of ways that you've done that and ways that you've been a keeper and preserver and an expander of the memories, and thinking this does matter. Every day matters here. And I think that's really beautiful. And it's been, I know it's been impactful for even your friends and the people in your community that have just kind of been there as you've begun to foster and got helped in this like really unique way. I wish it was less unique maybe, but but something that we're not seeing all the time. And what made you say, okay, because I think growing up, when my experience with foster care was limited, and I knew friends that they would take care of babies. Like it was just this really tiny, it was like the Bethany babies. It seems like there was a program. Right. And it was typically just like a week or maybe 2 weeks. And maybe that was a misunderstanding on my part. When I was thinking foster care, I'm thinking, oh, there's been, and again, this might just be me, but like just a naivety of thinking, it's going to be a weekend or, a couple weeks here where there's some kind of overlap, or that maybe they've gotten pulled out of their home for a moment and then they're going to go back. And I don't know where I came up with that thought, and that may not be common at all, but that's really not been the story. And so when you're saying every day, what has that kind of looked like for y'all typically, as far as the length of time?
A long time, like 2 years. The longest was a little over 2 years. And I really love that you said that about, your past understanding of foster care, because I also want everyone to know that was mine too. In fact, It was like, I did not come from a family who was involved in foster care. In fact, and I gave a speech about foster care at a large church, but I recalled that my thought and my understanding of foster care was this: the only interaction that I had with foster care all growing up was one woman that went to our church. She had adopted 11 or 12 children. Okay. They were there every Sunday at church, and they all sat on the front 2 pews of the church. Okay. And they literally drove a church van, and that the church, I believe, had given to them. And they showed up with all 12 of those children, which so admirable, seriously. And then actually, sadly enough, her husband very tragically passed away very suddenly. And that woman raised those 12 children by herself until every single one of them was out of her home. Okay. Jaw on the ground, like so admirable, and for a million reasons. But for the average person, that does not seem like a real draw to foster care. That doesn't seem,
not good marketing.
No. And so that really was what I thought foster care was like. That is like the woman in the shoe. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I did not relate to that. And the average person probably would not, because just economically and for every reason that it is really difficult. And I do believe in a sense of hospitality and faith and how they, thought about the foster care system and how you care for your flock. The church really supported them. And that's fantastic. But, so no, I did not grow up thinking like that's what I'm going to do. Wasn't ever drawn to driving a church van. Was not. So I just was like, that's not it for me. But then when when our church that we attended had the Heart Gallery come one Sunday morning, and that's, for those that don't know, it's this kind of traveling gallery of all these photos of children and their attached story who need to be adopted in the state of Arkansas. And so Project Zero is the organization that does that, and this traveling photo entourage like goes and they set it up at churches or places. And, you can read the children's stories and see their faces and all this and that. And our oldest child, Mia, at the time was maybe 7, and she was sitting next to me at church. And there are just certain moments that you have in life where you know that God, like, that message is for you, and we were just listening to the sermon, and all those photos were up behind the pastor or preacher on the stage. And she just looked over at me with just the most just innocent question and just very direct. And she said, Mama, like, why aren't we taking one of those children? And I just did not have any answer that seemed logical. I mean, I just felt instantly convicted, and I knew that, God speaks through children so often. And so I was like, ooh, that one was for me. I don't even have a good answer to give. And so that really was kind of what started, well, why don't we? And what would that look like? And I think, we just as humans need to feel like we have all the answers before we agree to something.
So true.
And we just have to have all the facts in place, and we have to know. And that so often just is not how faith plays out. And that is just so often not how obedience in Scripture plays out. It's God looking for people that will feel convicted in their heart and feel in tune to a message and just raise their hand and say, yes, Lord, send me. And it's the giving up of having to know how every single bit of that works. And so although I love to share and be transparent about foster care and let people know, like, these are some of the realities of this, and this is what could happen. It's really just about looking for people who are just in a season or stage or have, moved into their maturity of their faith. And that's each individual person's walk too. I do want to be really clear to say that foster care may not be everybody's calling. It really may not be to have a child in your home. It may look like supporting that in a different way, but it may not be to have someone in your home. But he's just really looking for someone that says, like, me, send me, not sitting there figuring out all the logistics for yourself because you're making the perfect decision for your family. I mean, it's going to come with hard things. And, that can also be the way that we treat other people in our home with our neighbors and all of this. And when they call and text and say, hey, do you have a shovel? You're like, yeah, go get it. Here's my alarm code. Like
it's on the outside of the house. Just go right.
Right, my alarm code's on the front door, but it's just like lacking that. I know. And people could come at me with all this, like, well, there's so many safety things and this and that. And I get it. But I guess all that aside, like, I want my friends to feel so welcome and okay in my home. And that is a true sign of friendship to me. When I have a friend that's like, hey, I'm stopping by. Do you have so-and-so? Could I grab this? Or what do you need? Or, that kind of stuff. That's like a true sign of friendship to me. And I think that's just what the world is needing. There's a lot of little children that just need somebody to say, hey, come on over, like, that's what we need.
I know you serve on the board at the call, and this has been something that you haven't just dabbled in, but you've really taken it as a passion project. And I think everybody could say, oh, it's not a good time for me or this, but like you said, your oldest of 3 was 7 when you first started getting into foster care. You were working, you were in a busy season of life and all the things. And still you said, I'm going to lean into this. And maybe some of that also just through your involvement. What kind of a need is there for foster care? I know that the call, is that just an Arkansas organization? So, obviously that's just not going to give you a full grasp of what kind of a need there is. But if you just kind of had to paint a small picture of the need in Arkansas, what does that look like?
It's basically at like, DEFCON level. It's really, really serious, all jokes aside. The number of children displaced from their homes at this point and needing placement far exceeds the number of available and open homes. There are many reasons for that, but just the straight up facts are that we have a major tilt in the number of children needing homes versus available homes. I think at our last meeting, the number might have been like around 600 and some children in central Arkansas, and 100 homes, 100 and some homes. I mean, it's just, I don't want to quote numbers exactly without having it in front of me, but I will just tell you that it is a massive variant there. So it's just a pretty severe situation. The pandemic really messed things up because people locked their homes down and didn't want to have people in their homes anymore. And that included children, other people's children. And
at the same time, I would think there was more of a need for foster care because all of a sudden people are with their children so much more. And if there were already issues, then those had to be magnified by just the sheer amount of time and just the whole world being upside down, stressful for everyone. But if there was already issues in the home with being able to provide or having different safety issues, it seems like that would have created even more tension and yeah. Anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And because teachers are mandated reporters, when the children weren't going to school, they're left at home in abusive type situations or whatever it is, and things weren't being tracked and looked at and monitored, and caseworkers didn't feel safe to go into the homes and check on people. I mean, it's just a complete and absolute mess, just a complete mess. And just like we have a shortage of teachers, we have a massive shortage of caseworkers and various things like that. So it really is a very, very dire situation right now. And I, a couple weeks ago, found myself probably for the first time in my life, I even shared this with you, Rebecca, and I just wake up every day thinking like I'm capable, I have a lot on my plate, but I'm energized by that. And, at our home, we do things, like we're just involved in stuff. We do stuff. And for the first time in my life, I looked at the mirror and I was like, I am at my max capacity today. The first time I thought to myself, like, this is it. You're at your max capacity. Like, this is, something's got to give. And and we currently don't have a placement in our home, but I thought to myself, like, right now, I just could not take on another child. And as a foster parent, those times happen and that's okay. And you need to take a knee and take a break. But in the same breath, just like a week later, so often we think like, okay, this is it. I don't, I fall into the stress or the emotions or whatever. And you get caught up in wondering how your own abilities are going to fix all the problems for the day. And it's just not really it. But I kind of just felt like God just was like, but is it really you or is it me? Because within like 2 days, I had gotten 2 calls to take infants that had pretty severe medical issues. And that's not always the case. And I had said yes to one of them, but they had found placement for it in the meanwhile. But I just thought, you know what? I see you, God. Like, it's not about you like pushing me. It's about you wanting me to know, like, I got this. Like, I'm just still looking for the yes. I'm just looking for the yes. I don't need you to know everything. And that's basically what foster care looks like, looking for the yes.
I feel like anytime I'm around you or foster care comes up, whether it's you're there or not, the number one question that I hear people or obstacle or objection is, I just don't know that I could give the child back. It seems like they're so, anyone that has a child especially is like, wait, I'm going to take this child. I know you've had, one for a year, one for another couple of years, some for around 6 months. And then to hand these children that you've had since they were just a couple days old, or even if for 6 months and you're not sure into the environment that then you're placing them in. So, I mean, it could be for a whole, many, many reasons, but that seems like the number one thing I hear people say. What do you, if someone was thinking that, what would your response be to them?
Well, I would say I get it. I feel like, there's a time that I would have said that too. And I would have said, oh, absolutely not. I mean, like, I just will fight tooth and nail. Like, the child's just not going to go back in a unsafe environment or something like that. And although we do not want that. But I think that that's just being a human. I think that that's just clinging to things that we don't want to lose. And that little, just false. I mean, I just call it false pride. I have it too. Like, I have it with my biological children. I have it with, like, they're mine. These children are mine. And I have all the say over what's going to happen and their care. And I'm just going to determine this and that and make all these controlled environments so everything just feels safe and good and that they will not leave me. And, what God showed me in all that is that it is false. Like, foster care for me personally has just been a free fall trust of just accepting, like, they just really aren't mine. He asked me to do a job and I said yes, that I would do the job. I did not say, yes, I will do this job for 6 months. Or just only 2 years. I said, yes, God, I will do a job and I will love them and be hospitable and accept that there may not be as many days as I wanted, and accepting too that, like, foster care oftentimes is being needed for a season. Woo, that hurts a mama's heart because mamas want to be forever and ever and ever. Amen. I mean, like, we do admit it. Like, that is what we want. We want to be number one. And that's just not always what that looks like. Usually the other thing that people say when they ask me about foster care and this, that, and the other is that, typically I cry like this. And they're like, I'm so sorry. We didn't mean to upset you. We didn't want you to cry. And I'm like, listen, I will cry about this till the day I die. I will. And I hope you do too. Because it's really a broken situation. Like, aren't we supposed to be broken for the things that breaks God's heart? And the day that I stop crying about it, well, I probably need to step down or away. Like, we should be so brokenhearted over this. And I do feel like if more people knew how big the situation is or how hard and sad and some of the really bad stuff that is going on with children, once you can't unknow it. Once we had our home open as a foster care family and you start getting the daily text of how many children need placement, it is like mind blowing. You are instantly like, whoa, I lived in a bubble. Like, I had no idea. But again, once you know, you can't unknow it, and then you need to act. And that's what our family decided to do. And that may not be for everybody, but there is a place for every person to serve. Because God is pretty specific in the Bible about caring for the widows and the orphans in some capacity. And we have felt the love and support of our families. And I mean, your family, so many of my closest friends, like, truly, that's another way of being hospitable, like texting, like, what do you need? And literally in an hour, I've got diapers, I've got this, I've got clothes, I've got everything on my door. And also just caring about that person, just like they would have if I birthed that baby. That meant a lot to me, because I think in it all, I just want every little life to matter, And with foster care, I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. You go, I don't know. I don't know why this particular birth mama keeps having this many children. I don't get it. That's another thing people say to me all the time. And you've probably overheard that. Like, oh my gosh, they just need to do something about that. The world just needs to do something about that. They need to make it so this mom doesn't have babies anymore or something. And you're like, well, I don't know. I don't understand all that. But here's what I believe. I believe in who creates life, and I believe the purpose in every life. And I don't think that I have to know why. All I have to know is if God says it's so, and that little life is to come earthside, Then from there on, we need to pick up the pieces. I don't know. He makes it right, not me. There's just things in foster care that you have to just give up your humanistic thought and this all-knowing way that humans are. We just, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I think that's how my faith walk has grown, is just accepting that. Like, I don't know. That seems crazy. I have no idea why she has 14 biological children that she doesn't care for, but I know that I don't get to say that their life isn't any more valuable than anybody else's, because if the good Lord said that their life was deemed worthy on this earth, then it is so. I mean, that's all I got. And I'm hanging my hat on that. So what are we going to do now? You know?
Well, I think what you were talking about earlier, and just the support community or friends that are around you, if people are saying, I'm not ready to make that step yet, but are there on-ramps to being able to support the foster community, whether it's through respite care or through supporting families in foster care? Are there any kind of ways, and that, may help people to see the need that is there when they do feel like, okay, actually I am ready for a placement or to get involved even more? Do you have any kind of suggestions or things that we could link to or anything like that you would recommend?
Yeah, I have a lot. And one of the ways that is on my heart a lot is for you to look, if you are a member of a church currently, I would challenge you to look at your church organization and say, what are we doing as a church for this? Do we have foster families here that we're supporting? If not, how should we do that? How do we identify who they are? Do we have families here fostering? If not, why? Why has the church not made that a priority? Because we can rely on government organizations all that we want, but we are called as a church to do something about this. And quite honestly, if every church in Central Arkansas put one foot in the ring on this, we actually probably wouldn't have an issue at all with the foster care situation in Central Arkansas. But so I would just say, start looking around, like organizations that you're involved in, be it your church mainly. What is your church doing there? And can you bring that forward to church leadership and say, hey, what would that look like? Or we have 4 foster families here. Let's tap into how we could serve them. We could take their families' meals. We could offer free childcare. We could offer, we had an organization at a past congregation where we fully supported the foster families. And that was everything from taking children to doctor's appointments. We laughed. It was like getting your yard mowed, things that seem a lot extra when you have taken on even more children in your home, a clothing program, a food program, a prayer program, like all of those things just to come around that foster family. Another thing that you could do is reach out to your local foster care organization. So around here, that's the Call. There's also a really strong Baptist organization here in Arkansas. The name has left me, but
when
there
you
are
think
several.
We'll link it in the show notes.
Okay. There are several organizations that you could reach out to that I promise you are always looking for support. A lot of those are nonprofits, so they're being run off private donations of some sort. And I would just say, be willing to, I know as humans, it makes us feel so uncomfortable. We don't want to hear that there's such a big problem. And it is easier to stay in our own little bubble, but just be willing to have your heart broken a little bit, like listen to what the problem is, because I do feel like that once people are made aware, they go, oh my gosh, like, well, yes, I can absolutely buy a package of diapers and provide a meal for the lady down the street. Like, oh my heavens. But you have to know what it is first. And in order to know, you have to listen. Mm-hmm. And so those would be my suggestions really to start with.
Is there anything else when you're thinking about foster care or just experiences that you're like, I wish people knew this, or just kind of maybe anything that we didn't even touch on that maybe was I know people think debunking something or just something that just is on your heart or that's happened that you just say, I just want to make sure y'all hear me on this?
Oh, that is a huge question. And I'll probably walk away from this call and go, I should have said this or that. But, for the children that we've had in our home and the age groups that we've been able to love on, I just think that a human being knows when they are separated from the one they were designed for, their original mama. And that is not God's plan for things. But we do live in a broken world, and he can find ways to redeem all of that. But he needs to use his people for that. And so, no, that is not ideal and not perfect that child or baby was taken from the one. And trust me, to the core of them and their DNA, they know it. They know it. It's uncanny. It's has always impressed upon me just the miracle of creation and God's plan, who he gave to who, and all of that. But I don't know, Rebecca. I mean, I would just say that if anything about what I've said, goes, that's something I've been thinking about, God's probably trying to talk to you. That message probably is for you, and that person can reach out to me individually or whatever to talk about what that looks like more. But I just, every little person has a story, and the world deserves to hear it, and they deserve to be loved and have space to be cared for. And I don't know. I just think we overthink it so much, but the good Lord's just looking for some simple yeses, and he'll figure out the rest.
Well, I just want to say thank you for championing this topic and this mission and everything that you're doing, and being so candid about it and what it looks like and what is required, and not saying I just appreciate you. And I love you, and I'm really grateful for your voice and everything that you're doing. And it matters, and it's absolutely making a difference. And we'll put your information in there if in the show notes, if people want to reach out, and some resources on this, because I do believe that it's a calling and a command to be looking for I don't see how you can get away from it in scripture. And that it really, I think it is a part of hospitality, and one that is requiring a lot. It's a lot, but I'm grateful for the on-ramps and the ways I think for you, it was just starting to ask questions, and then recognizing the need and saying, okay, God, do you want me to take another step here and another step here? And so I think that's stepping out in faith and asking, just seeing what God has for you and for your family. And just thank you for telling your story, Morgan. I appreciate you and love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
You just finished another episode of Wide Open Spaces. My hope is always that you felt encouraged as you listened. And if you found this valuable, will you share it with a friend today? Tag me if you do. I always love seeing your favorite takeaways. I'm so glad you were here, and I'll see you back next week. Same time, same place. See you then.